Hello, my friends. This week I'm going to be talking and showing you slightly different stuff than what I've been showing you, which up to now has been pretty much turning, mostly greenwood turning actually, but I want to bring you in a different area. There's other options, and my option is not the only option. It's just a different option on things you can do for your shop. So basically we're going to be concentrating on making different jigs, whether it's a fence for your bandsaw, whether it's a slide for your table saw of a different type. And I will tell you, this slide is going to be something that you will want to watch, so come back. But today we're going to be focusing on something very simple, and I'm not going to be making another one, so I will just walk you through to exactly what I did and what I used to create my own Wolverine sharpening jig. Now, Captain Eddie has one out there that's really easy to make. I've made it out of square tube, but it's actually better if you make it out of the round tube that he actually shows you on his video. And you can make that, and it works beautifully. As a matter of fact, I've been using one out of square tube, out of this type of tube, but the long way. Excuse me. I had one made up. This length one is a lot of my tools have very short steel. And when I would put it in, I'd be bottomed out with at least 3 of my tools. So I could not be consistent with other tools on how far off I extended the tip out. I would have to change my grind distance of my rail for each different tool. I didn't have a consistent 2-inch offset per se, or 1 3/4, or whatever you decide you want to make it based on the angle that you want on your cutting edge. And you know, they say 40 degrees, 45 degrees, different people will give you different things. You do it to where you already feel comfortable, because once you establish yourself with a specific grind and all of a sudden you change that, it's like you have to learn all over how to engage that tool, because the offset will give you a different memory set from what you've been used to up to a point. So consistency on how you grind every time is a great thing. Now you can achieve a better edge with a specific grind than another, but regardless of whichever one you set yourself on, and that you feel that it's a good cutting edge and you feel comfortable with it, you set that, you establish it, and you maintain that. Don't let somebody else come and say, well, you know, you got a 55-degree angle over there. That's wrong. It's not wrong. It's your tool, it's your comfort that dictates that. So with that design in mind, I decided, you know, like, I wish I had this a little bit better. I wish I had made it out of round tube, it with cradle on the bottom, but there's still little things that you have to consider when you make one. So I went back to the drawing board, and yes, I draw, I doodle things. When I want to make something, I kind of will draw something fairly quick and see how is that going to work for me, and what material do I have. I work with material that I got around at the shop. If I didn't have that square tube, I would do something different, because that's how I am, and you know, I don't go out and buy everything that I need, or else I would be buying the tools that are readily available to me. So out of the same square stock tube, which I have a length of around the shop, it was from my first lathe that I bought, actually, a Chicago Harbor Freight square tube. When I bought the lathe, I didn't know anything about lathes. It was way underpowered. It had no power. Every time I would put the tool to it, it would stall. It didn't matter if I was running fast or slow, but there was no such thing as slow. There was only fast and faster. But anyway, I took it apart and I used different parts of the tool. One for my countershaft that I will be showing you, modification, new countershaft. I found some drawbacks with the first one I did that you might have seen already in my earlier videos. So that will be one of the things that I will be presenting in this series as well. But anyway, out of the tube, I decided I want to make one. So what I did is I took the long piece of tube, while it was still long, I put it on my drill press, and I drilled in different steps, starting off with 1/4 inch, then 3/8, 1/2 inch, 3/4, up to a 1 inch drill bit. I drilled through all the way top to bottom. Once that was done, out of that length, I cut up where I just had enough on the outsides. I don't need anything more than that. I wanted to keep it as slim as I could. For several reasons. So basically I have just a little over 1/8 on each side. So basically the width of this is about 1.25 inches. And the square stock that I have is roughly 1.25 inches, 1 3/8 diameter. Once that was done, I took it to my grinder and I trued up these faces in all the directions, making sure that I was nice and square. Not because it matters, but just because I wanted to make sure that I had a nice flat surface. So you make once you drill that big 1 inch bore, you can go small if you want. If you don't have a 1 inch bit, up to 3/4, you're fine. And I will show you why I did the full 1 inch over here. Then once that was done, back on the drill press, and these two holes are in line with each other. They could be offset. This one could be to the back, this one could be to the front. Again, it has no impact on what the unit is going to do for you. So on the top, again, I had a 1/4 bolt with a flat, or may I say, like a countersink V bottom, and flat, totally flat on the top, actually for a flat screwdriver for you to turn. And I cut that down so I could fit it in between this area right here, so I could thread it from the inside outwards. So yes, I drilled a 1/4 inch and tapped it to that. Then I took that and made sure that the screw went in nicely, and it did. This base has to swivel. If it's fixed, or if you use just the head of the screw itself, when you're tightening it, well, it's turning and it's forcing your tool to twist on you. So what I did on that is, because the base of the screw was shaped like that and flat on the bottom, I took a washer that fit on this thread and I put it upside down in the mouth of a pipe like this, but stood a pipe on end, and my screw fit in there, and the pipe was just a little bit smaller than the washer. And I took a hammer with, of course, the nut doesn't even need to be in there because you're working it this way. So I put the screw through with the washer on the top, and I pounded the top of the screw to flange out my washer to become shaped, to contour around the base of that screw. See the screw? It's right in there, and this spins. So once that was done, I had the washer set. It was flat with the bottom. I took the screw back in and I screwed it up from the bottom up with a lock nut in there. Now the lock nut, I didn't bring it up tight. I kept a little bit of a space just enough for this to rotate, but not enough for it to come up. So this spins nicely. Put that through the top of the screw. I took a piece of wood. It was 3/4 inch maple. I drilled a hole for the 1/4-20, tapped it, and I put a little CA inside of the hole and threaded this into the screw, just enough to bottom out a little bit, and then I ground off the excess on a grinder again because I didn't want a 3/4 inch thick piece of for a handle, and shaped it up like a nut. The bottom, it's a 5-inch bolt that I had. I didn't have a 1/4, so I didn't have a tap either, so I drilled it just a little, about the right size for that to fit in. It actually threaded a little bit on its own, but not strong enough for it to hold. So I put a nut on the bottom, it protruding upwards of the base of this just enough, and I took another nut and I actually ground it down, held it on a pair of pliers on my grinder, on my disc sander, and I ground it down so it would be a little bit shallower. You can buy these, so you don't have to go to that extreme. You go to Home Depot, the specialty nuts and stuff like that. They'll have all different types that would work out really well for you, much better than this. And you can even use the same type on the bottom. You just need to lock this in a way. But anyway, once I got it in place, I actually CA'd it also in place. So I CA'd the bottom nut to it and the top nut. And that made my Wolverine jig. Now, ideally this would be nice if it was a little bit longer, but this works out beautiful. The reason why I went with a square stock like this and I went with a 1-inch hole over here is because I don't know how big of a bowl gouge I'm going to end up getting someday. I'm thinking of making 1/2 inch, 5/8, myself, but I have a couple of roughing gouges. They're not bowl gouges, they're roughing gouges, and when I got them they were flat across the top, traditional, and they probably worked fine, but along the way I decided I wanted to create the Ellsworth grind on it again. So I did that originally on this piece when I had it. Well, I like the way this works. I know some of you are going to say, what are you doing putting in an Ellsworth grind on a roughing gouge? I will learn as time goes. But to me, right now, this is not a problem. I seem to like the way that I use this tool. And I use this tool very traditional, not only for my spindles, but for my bolts. I will gouge the inside of a bowl with this. It's the heaviest duty tools that I have. So therefore, I wanted to make sure that I could still use this. And if you make this hole too small, well, then you can't use your bigger tools. This is made for the bowl gouges more and spindle gouges more than it is for this. But I still wanted to use it that way. So if I put it in here, set it back, and I tighten it. Okay? Once it's tight, it's true. It's dead on. It's flat to my surface. It's cradled on the bottom. It's cradled on the bottom nicely. Okay? So you can see that. And bring it up to my stone, and I have the perfect motion on this. That's why I did this. So if I take a small one, the one that I just showed you, I could not get a 2-inch projection on the other piece that I had made up. See, it centers itself. If I have it in there somewhat twisted, like it is right now, I don't know if you can see that, but it's sitting sideways, and I tighten it up, automatically it will flatten itself parallel because of this washer over here. And there I go. And now I have enough room where I will do my setback for the 2 inches that I need, and it will work, and I still have a little bit of steel to go before I bottom out. That's what I did for this piece. Let me turn you around and bring you to my grinder. Now, on my grinder, again, because I had that square pipe, okay, so I didn't have to buy any. I ran a piece going out to the back of my bench, tapped a 1/4-20 up here for a lockdown bolt, okay, and I can lock this up at any point that I want, for even to gouge out all the way from back here with different pieces. Okay, bring it up to the measurements that I want and lock it up in place. Now typically there's a formula, there's a measurement that you use when you're using this. I say the formula is to establish your cut, your pitch of your cut that you want. And once you find that, then you can put a mark on here and lock it up. And every time you go to sharpen another one of your gouges, you will always end up the same. On this end, I drilled a hole going 2 inches deep. So for me to set off my tool, I just set it in there, lock it up, and there's my 2 inches that I need on the overhang. And I don't have as much as I was showing. I only have another 1/4 inch or so. But I have a 1/4 inch. Once I get to the bottom out, well, then I'll make a slight modification on how far out I put this and continue using this this setup. So right now, that's the way I have it. It works out really well for me, and I have a perfect sharpening jig that I can be proud of and say, I did it. You can make your own. It's really that simple. It's nothing should be rocket science on this. Everything should be more fun and learning along the way. If you make one and you're not 100% proud with it, proud of it, and you feel you can do better, toss that one, go out, make another one, think about it, modify it, make it different, make it the same, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is you want to make something that's going to run true for you every time. So from Albert in my shed to you, make your own Ellsworth grind. Take care, come back again.